It began with sound, not a scream, not a crash, just a moan, low, half-broken, and too human to mistake. The son froze at the top of the stairs, his hand resting on the wall. It was past midnight, the house was asleep, or supposed to be. He'd gotten up for water. That's what he told himself, though even before his bare feet hit the cold floorboards. He'd sensed something was wrong. The sound came again, softer this time. A breath caught, a whisper that wasn't his father's name. He followed it down the hall. The door to the study was half open, the light spilling out in a trembling strip across the floor. Inside, two shadows moved, slow, tangled, deliberate. The woman's head was tilted back, her hand clutching someone's shoulder. The other figure, a man, was taller, broader, the movement between them rhythmic, desperate. Alive. The son didn't move, he didn't blink, he couldn't. It lasted only a few seconds before she noticed the creak of a floorboard. The smallest shift of air. She turned. Their eyes met. Everything stopped. The man pulled away, half turning, his face hidden by the light. Then he was gone, moving fast, a blur of motion out the back door. The woman stood still, her breath uneven. Her hair clung to her neck. The silence between them was unbearable. Finally, she spoke, her voice flat and cold. "You shouldn't have seen that." He didn't answer. "Go upstairs," she said. "Now." But he didn't move, he just looked at her, the way her blouse hung open. The tremor in her hand as she reached to fix it. He said quietly, "Who was he?" She met his gaze, eyes steady. "No one." Then she turned off the light, and the house went dark again. He didn't tell his father. Not that night, not the next. The truth sat in his throat like glass. She acted as if nothing had happened. Morning came, sunlight warm across the breakfast table, the smell of coffee and toast. She smiled, asked about his work, laughed at something his father said. Her tone was smooth, even playful, like the night before had been erased. But it hadn't. Because now, every sound carried weight, the clink of silverware, the whisper of her voice. The creak of the study door. The son watched her with new eyes, and what he saw terrified him. Not guilt, not shame, but ease. She had no fear of being caught, because she didn't believe she had been. A week passed before he saw the stranger again. It was raining, the kind of slow drizzle that makes the world feel too quiet. He'd gone into town to pick up some supplies when he saw a man step out of a cafe. Holding an umbrella, the same shape, the same shoulders. Their eyes met through the glass. Recognition. Surprise. Then the man turned and walked away. The son followed. Through side streets, across puddles. Until the man turned into the narrow lane behind the hotel on Main Street. When the man finally stopped, he didn't look afraid. He looked irritated. "You should stop following me," he said. His voice was calm, steady, practiced. The son clenched his fists. "Who are you?" The man tilted his head. "You already know." "Why are you here?" "Because she asked me to be." That answer chilled him more than anything. He said, "If my father finds out." The man laughed softly. "He won't. She made sure of that long ago." And then he left, walking into the rain until he disappeared. When the son got home, she was waiting at the kitchen table. She looked at him, eyes unreadable. "You followed him," she said. He froze. "You shouldn't have done that." "How did you know?" "Because you're predictable," she said, standing. "And because I would have done the same thing." He tried to speak, but the words tangled. "You think I don't know what this looks like?" she asked quietly. You think I don't understand the kind of story you're building in your head? He said, then tell me I'm wrong. She walked closer, close enough for him to smell her perfume, the same scent that had lingered in the study that night. I won't lie to you, she said. But I won't confess, either. Why? Because confession is for people who still feel guilt. He stared at her. And you don't? She smiled faintly. Not anymore. That night, he heard her humming upstairs. A quiet, tuneless melody. He stood in the dark hallway, listening, wondering if the sound was real or something his mind had invented to fill the silence. Then her voice drifted down, soft and calm. You can't unhear what you've heard. So decide what to do with it. And then, nothing. Just the hum of the house, the heartbeat in his ears. And the knowledge that whatever she'd broken that night wasn't just her marriage. It was him. He tried to pretend for a while. Pretend that nothing had changed, that the house still breathed the same air it always had. He went to work, came home, ate dinner with them like a dutiful son. His father's laughter still filled the evenings, blind and trusting. While she moved around the kitchen with quiet grace, every gesture a mask. But once you've heard something you're not supposed to, you can't hear anything else. Every sound became a reminder, the clatter of her spoon against porcelain, the soft drag of her slippers on the floor, the whisper of her voice when she spoke too low for anyone but him to hear. He started keeping track. The times she left, the phone calls she took outside, the excuses that didn't quite fit. It wasn't anger that drove him, it was curiosity, something darker, heavier. He needed to know not just that she was lying, but why. One evening, when his father was out of town, the woman stood in the living room window, staring into the night like she was waiting for someone. Her reflection looked calm, but her hands were trembling. He stayed hidden in the hallway until a car pulled up outside. Headlights flashed across the walls. She didn't move. Then the doorbell rang, one short chime. She opened the door without hesitation. The man stepped inside, the same stranger from before. He looked older in the light, the kind of man used to getting what he wanted without asking twice. Are you sure? He asked quietly. She nodded. He won't come down. The son's heart pounded. The man put a hand on her cheek. You don't have to do this anymore. Her voice was low. Yes, I do. And then they kissed, slow, deliberate, the kind of kiss that doesn't hide. Something inside him snapped. He moved without thinking, stepping out from the hallway. Stop, he said. They froze. The woman turned first. Her face didn't show fear. It showed exhaustion. You shouldn't be here, she said. He glared at the man. Get out. The man's voice stayed calm. You don't understand. I understand enough. No, the woman said, stepping between them. You understand nothing. He laughed bitterly. Then explain it. Her voice shook, not with guilt, but with something close to grief. He's not what you think he is. Who? My father? Yes, she whispered, and neither am I. The man left quietly, no shouting, no threats. Just a look at her that felt like goodbye. When the door closed, the house fell silent again, except for the sound of her breathing. The son stood there, waiting for her to speak. Finally, she said, sit down. He didn't move. You're going to tell me everything. She shook her head. Not everything. Just what you need to know. He clenched his fists. I need to know why. She looked at him then, not like a stepmother looking at a son, but like a woman about to destroy someone she once pitied. Your father isn't a victim, she said softly. He's the reason that man exists. The reason I exist in this house. He frowned. What are you talking about? She exhaled, the sound breaking slightly. Your father hired him years ago. He wasn't a business partner, he was a cleaner. He made problems disappear. Money, people, secrets. And your father made sure I owed him everything. You're lying. No, she said. I'm surviving. He took a step back. The floor felt unstable beneath him. You expect me to believe that? She looked at him with something like pity. Believe whatever lets you sleep. But know this, what you heard that night wasn't pleasure. It was desperation. He stared at her. You're saying he forced you? I'm saying it was an exchange, she whispered. And your father made sure I didn't have a choice. The words hung between them, thick and poisonous. He wanted to deny it, to protect the image he'd built of the man upstairs, the father who worked late, who believed in rules and honesty. But deep down, he knew she was capable of truth when it suited her. And this truth felt too ugly to invent. He turned toward the stairs. I'll ask him. Her voice stopped him cold. Do that, she said. And see what kind of man answers. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat in his room, watching the shadows shift across the ceiling. Her words replaying over and over until they sounded like something his own mind had made up. By morning, he heard her in the kitchen, humming softly. The same sound he'd heard that first night, the same rhythm, calm and unbroken. When he came downstairs, she handed him a cup of coffee, her smile faint. Did you think about it? She asked. He didn't answer. Good, she said, because now that you've started to doubt him, he'll start to fear you. He froze. She turned away, her voice low, almost gentle. And that, dear, is how it begins. The son didn't confront his father right away. He waited, watched, collected the tiny inconsistencies that suddenly seemed to multiply once he started looking. A phone call that ended too quickly when he entered the room. A locked drawer that hadn't been locked before. The way his father's tone changed when the woman's name came up, sharp, defensive. As if afraid to breathe too much air into the space she occupied. She was right about one thing. Once you start to doubt someone, you start to see everything. But what terrified him most was how much sense her story began to make. The next night, he waited until his father was asleep and slipped into the study. The drawer opened easily with a thin blade. Inside, a stack of old files, financial records, contracts, receipts, and a small black notebook. He opened it. There were names, dates, and numbers, all crossed through with careful precision. Some had notes beside them, settled quietly, removed from books, no contact. And on one of the last pages, two names written together, his stepmother's and the stranger's. Beside them, one line in his father's handwriting. Payment complete. Containment necessary. He stared at the words until they stopped meaning anything. Containment. What did that mean? He turned another page and there, tucked in the fold, was a photograph, a young woman smiling. Arm around a man who wasn't his father. The handwriting on the back read, "Before the deal." His pulse raced. The woman in the photo was her, years younger, freer. Before the calm voice and the empty eyes. Before the cage. He didn't hear his father come in. Looking for something? The man asked. The son froze. The sound of that voice, low, even, dangerous, made his skin crawl. His father leaned against the doorway, hands in his pockets. That drawer's private. The son turned slowly. You lied. His father sighed. About what, exactly? You'll have to be more specific. She said you paid him. That you used her. His father's expression didn't change. You believe her? Shouldn't I? She's a manipulator, his father said quietly. Everything she does is performance. That's what made her perfect for me in the beginning. And dangerous later. Then what's this? The son snapped, holding up the notebook. Business, his father said. The kind you stay out of if you want to live a quiet life. Business doesn't sound like blackmail, the son said. His father smiled faintly. You've been listening to her too long. I heard you, the son said. In that recording. That made his father pause. What recording? The son froze. He hadn't meant to say it. His father stepped closer, his tone changing. What recording? He hesitated. She didn't tell me everything. She told you enough to make you dangerous. The father took the notebook from his hand. You think she's a victim, he said, flipping through the pages. You think she doesn't know how to pull strings. But that woman's been playing both sides since before you could drive. The man you saw? He's not her lover. He's her leverage. Leverage for what? To get what she thinks she's owed. Owed for what? For keeping quiet, his father said. The words hung in the air, thick and ugly. About what? The son whispered. His father closed the notebook. Go to bed. Forget all this. But the son didn't move. Tell me. The man sighed, turning away. She knows what happened to your mother. The silence hit harder than any confession could have. He felt the blood drain from his face. You said it was an accident. His father didn't answer. She said it wasn't. She wasn't there. But you were, the son said. That made him stop. The father turned, eyes hard now, voice low. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you've been lying, the son said, his throat tight. And I know she's not the only one afraid of me finding out. For a moment, they just stared at each other, two men bound by the same truth neither wanted to own. Then the father said, she's using you to finish what she started. Don't let her. He left the room without another word. The son sat down slowly, the floor cold beneath his feet. The house was quiet again, but not peaceful. It was the kind of quiet that comes before something breaks. He picked up the photograph one last time. The woman's smile, bright, innocent, almost tender, looked like it belonged to someone who had once believed in being saved. Now, all he could see in her eyes was someone who had learned to save herself. No matter who she had to destroy. He slipped the photo into his pocket, the weight of it small but suffocating. He didn't know who to believe anymore. But he knew one thing, the house was lying to both of them. And soon, one of them would have to tell the truth. He didn't go home that night. He drove without a plan, letting the road swallow him. Each turn, each mile felt like a chance to escape the story he'd been ridden into. But the story followed, coiling tighter with every mile. The woman's words, his father's voice, the silence in between, none of it fit together. Yet each piece felt true in its own way. By dawn, he found himself parked near the lake, where the water mirrored the sky like an accusation. He sat there until the sun came up, thinking about the photograph. About the word containment written in his father's hand. He took out his phone, thumb hovering over her name. He wanted to call her, demand answers. But something told him she'd been waiting for that she wanted him to come back. So he did the opposite. He went to the one place she'd never expect. The man's house. The stranger. It was smaller than he imagined, neat, too quiet. With a garden full of trimmed hedges that looked like they'd been shaped by someone who needed control over at least one thing in his life. He knocked once. The man opened the door almost immediately, like he'd been waiting. His expression didn't show surprise. You shouldn't be here, he said. You worked for him, the son said. My father. The man hesitated. Worked. Past tense. Did you kill someone for him? The man's jaw tightened. No. Then who did? Silence. You were with her, the son said. You said she didn't have a choice. I didn't say that, the man replied. I said she thought she didn't. What's that supposed to mean? It means she's smarter than both of you. She's been playing this longer than you've been alive. The son took a step forward. So it's all her fault? The man sighed. Fault's a word for children. The truth is, your father and that woman built a lie so big they needed someone else to carry it. And you, he pointed toward him, you're what they build it around. The son's voice cracked. She said he hurt her. He did, the man said. But not in the way she told you. Then how? She was part of it from the beginning. The company, the money, the cover-ups. Your mother found out, tried to expose them. The fight that night wasn't about love, it was about leverage. He felt the air leave his chest. You're lying. The man looked tired. Everyone's lying. That's the point. Then why tell me any of this? Because you're the last person who doesn't know which lie to keep. He turned to go, but the man's voice stopped him. If you want proof, check the safety deposit box. Your father's name, not hers. You'll find the rest there. By the time he returned to town, the house felt smaller. Denser. The kind of place that swallows light. The woman was sitting in the kitchen, her hair loose, a half-empty glass of wine beside her. You left early, she said. He didn't answer. You went to see him. Still nothing. Did he tell you his version? She asked. He nodded. He said my mother found out about the money. That you were both in on it. Her expression didn't change. Of course he did. And he said she didn't fall. That someone made sure she wouldn't talk again. She met his eyes then, calm as ever. And you believe him? He hesitated. I don't know what to believe. She stood, walked to the window. That's the first honest thing you've said since this started. You can end this, he said. Tell me the truth. She turned slowly, her face unreadable. The truth? Yes. The truth, she said softly, is that your father isn't the only one who wanted her gone. His stomach turned. What are you saying? I'm saying your mother wasn't innocent. She knew what the money was for. She started it. He finished it. He shook his head. No. Yes, she whispered. And I cleaned it up. The words hit like a slap. You killed her? No, she said. I buried her story. He took a step back, the floor creaking under his weight. Why are you telling me this now? Because it's time you stopped pretending you were just watching, she said. You were there that night. He froze. That's not true. Isn't it? She asked. You were standing on the stairs, just like when you found me with him. You heard everything. You saw how it ended. I don't remember that, he said, voice breaking. You don't want to, she replied. But the truth isn't something you get to forget. It always waits for you. The room spun. He backed away until his shoulders hit the wall. You're lying, he whispered. Then prove it, she said. Go to the bank. Open the box. You'll find her necklace there. The one you said went missing. Ask yourself why he kept it. He wanted to run, but his feet didn't move. Because deep down, under the panic, under the rage, he knew what she was doing. She wasn't just telling the truth. She was handing him a weapon. And she knew exactly what he'd do with it. He didn't sleep that night. The woman's words clung to him like a fever. You were there that night. The phrase looped until he could barely breathe. He'd tried to remember, but all that came were fragments, the sound of shouting, the crash of glass, his mother's voice cutting off mid-sentence. Then nothing. He told himself she was lying, that she was twisting things like she always did. But the more he tried to erase it, the sharper the edges of memory became. By morning, he was standing outside the bank. The key his father had kept in the drawer felt cold in his hand. The clerk didn't question him when he asked for access. Just a signature, a nod, a click of metal unlocking metal. The box was small, too small to hold everything it needed to. Inside, a folded letter, a bundle of old cash, and a velvet pouch. He opened the pouch first. The necklace. Silver chain, small locket, the one his mother had worn every day until she'd lost it the night she died. His throat tightened as he turned it over. Inside the locket, two faces, his and hers, smiling. Frozen in a time that had stopped belonging to them. He set it aside and opened the letter. It was written in his father's handwriting. If you're reading this, then you've already heard two versions of the truth. One from her, one from me. Neither is the whole story. You want to know what happened that night? You were there. You saw. You just refused to see. The words blurred as he read on. She came to me with threats. Said she'd take you, ruin me, tell the world what we'd done. I begged her to stop. She wouldn't. You were standing on the stairs, crying. When I tried to stop her from leaving, she slipped. You screamed her name, but she was already gone. He stopped reading. The paper shook in his hands. He didn't need to finish. He saw it, finally, clearly, his mother falling, the sound of her body hitting the floor. His own voice echoing in the stairwell. He had been there. He had seen it. He just hadn't understood. And now, every lie that came after, every word from his father, every secret from the woman, made a kind of cruel sense. She hadn't been trying to protect him. She'd been trying to remind him. He walked out of the bank into the harsh sunlight, the letter crumpled in his hand. The world outside was too bright, too clean. It made the memory feel dirtier. By the time he reached home, the house was quiet again. Too quiet, he called out once. No answer. The kitchen smelled faintly of wine. There was a glass on the counter, half full, next to a folded note. He didn't have to open it. He already knew who it was from. It's over. He's gone. You have what you need now. The rest is yours. He dropped the note, his pulse spiking. He ran through the house, the study, the hall, the stairs, until he found the door to his father's room closed. The handle was cold when he turned it. Inside, the air was heavy. The bed was unmade. The window was open. And on the floor, slumped beside the desk, his father. A gun, blood, and silence. For a moment, everything in him went numb. Then came the sound, a strangled, broken thing he didn't realize was coming from his own throat. The letter from the bank fell from his pocket, landing beside his father's body. The two notes, the woman's and his father's, lay together now, side by side, like matching graves. He stumbled into the hallway. She was standing there. Her eyes were calm, almost soft. It had to end, she said quietly. What did you do? What he couldn't. He shook his head. You made him do this. I gave him a choice, she said. He finally took one. He stepped toward her, trembling. You destroyed everything. Her gaze didn't waver. No, I just stopped pretending it could be saved. She reached into her pocket and held something out. The locket, his mother's. I found it in his drawer years ago, she said. He kept it as a trophy. You keep it as a reminder. He didn't take it. You're sick. Maybe, she said, but I'm free. Then she turned, walked past him, and out the front door. He didn't follow. He just stood there, listening to her footsteps fade into the quiet morning. Later, when the police came, they asked questions he couldn't answer. About timelines, motives, details. He said his father had been sick. That grief does strange things to people. They believed him. He buried his father next to his mother. The same stone, two names, one lie carved into both, forever at peace. But he knew better. Peace was for people who forgot. He was the one left to remember. He left the town within a week. No one stopped him. The police were done, the neighbors whispered. And the woman had vanished without a trace, no forwarding address, no goodbye. Just gone. The house sat behind him like a scar that refused to close. He drove until he ran out of places to run. A small coastal town, gray and wind-bitten, took him in. He rented a room above a bar where the walls smelled of salt and old stories. The owner didn't ask questions. That felt like mercy. Days turned into months. He worked fixing fishing nets, repairing things for people who didn't know what he'd broken. At night, he sat by the window, watching the tide come and go. The sea became a kind of clock, endless, uncaring, patient. Sometimes he thought he saw her reflection in the water, her eyes steady, her voice whispering, "You were there that night." But the voice no longer frightened him. It was part of the tide now, always coming, always leaving. One morning, a letter arrived at the bar. No return address, no name. Just his. He opened it with a calm he didn't understand. "You'll never forgive either of us. But maybe you'll learn that forgiveness was never the point. We only gave you what you needed to see yourself clearly. That's what truth does, it destroys what doesn't belong. Take care of what's left." He stared at the paper until the ink blurred. There was no signature, but he didn't need one. The perfume, faint and familiar, said everything. He folded the letter, walked to the pier, and let the wind take it. The paper fluttered once before the sea swallowed it whole. The nights grew quieter after that. He no longer dreamed of the house, or the blood, or the sound of her voice in the dark. But sometimes, in that half-sleep before morning, he heard other things, the clinking of glass, the echo of laughter that didn't belong to anyone anymore. And sometimes, he swore he heard his mother's voice, soft, distant, forgiving. He'd wake with tears he didn't feel coming. He stopped trying to decide which ghosts were real. One evening, he walked the beach alone, a storm brewing far out on the horizon. The waves hissed and pulled at the shore like breath through teeth. Something glinted in the sand near his feet. He bent down. A silver locket, tarnished, half buried. He turned it over, and the clasp still worked. Inside, the same photograph, his and hers. His mother's smile blurred by time and salt. He stared at it for a long time before closing it, his thumb pressing the metal shut. Then he threw it into the ocean. It vanished without a splash. He stood there, letting the wind push against him, the salt stinging his eyes until they watered. And for the first time, the memory didn't hurt. It simply existed, like the sea, vast and endless, carrying everything away, one wave at a time. Years later, people in that town would say he was a quiet man. Polite, solitary. He fixed what was broken, and he never raised his voice. No one knew where he came from, and he never offered to tell. But sometimes, when the storms rolled in, he'd walk out to the pier and stand there until the rain soaked him through. Watching. Listening. And if you got close enough, you might hear him whisper something to the waves. A single word, carried off by the wind. Enough. It was not an ending. It was the sound of a man finally learning how to live after the noise was gone.